So I want to start off my talk this morning by sharing a personal story with you that goes way back to the 80s. I sound old when I say that, don't I? Way back in the 80s. But I was 27 years old at the time. I had started a business with my best friend who I met her at church. And we were at a Unity church there together, and we decided to start a business. And it was going along, but then I noticed some things were not quite kosher. They weren't quite, you know how you just get that sense? And I found out that she had betrayed me. And that was a huge, not just disappointment, but I was devastated by that news, because this is someone that I trusted, someone that I cared about and loved, and someone that I thought was on the same spiritual path with me, which was also a spiritual wound. And so I really I came away from that just reeling. And I did not have the best coping skills at that point. Can you relate to that when you're younger? Don't you wish we knew now, or then what we know now? And so I really struggled with that, because someone had hurt me quite deeply, and the betrayal was a deep wound that I had. Now, I recognized later that I had had that wound for quite some time already. I had been betrayed in childhood, and that was simply coming forward. But at the time, we don't see patterns, do we? And so it was a chance for me to heal that was coming up at that time. So at that time, I lost everything that I had. I was financially devastated. It really went to the core of who I was. And so deeply in debt, I packed up my car. I was living in Florida at the time, and I moved to Chicago, where I knew two people, had no job, didn't have a place to live, but I just thought, well, I'm going to strike out and start over. And what a blessing that was, that I at least had the courage to do that. And I worked 3 jobs when I got there, because I was paying off debt and I was just trying to survive. But what I found was the Religious Science Church there in downtown Chicago, the First Church of Religious Science. My first minister was Dr. Carlton Whitehead, who was a contemporary of Ernest Holmes. And I can say I stumbled into that church, but I really crawled into that church. I was crawling on my knees. I was in that bad a shape, because there were too many things that I just didn't know how to deal with. But what that really allowed me to do was to find the blessing there, because I immediately latched on to these religious science principles. And even in the deep, dark place that I was, I knew that this was the way out. I knew that this was the way for me to find a path, and it wasn't going to happen overnight, but I could find a path that led me to that light. And so I worked these principles day in and day out. And eventually, I decided to become a minister, a religious science minister. So from a devastating loss that I had in my life, it was a springboard, actually, to my greater good. It led me to something that is who I am today. I am so grateful for that. I'm grateful to her. And I can say that really clearly now, because when I first came out of it, I was angry and upset and resentful. Can anyone relate to that? And I didn't know what to do with all of that. And this teaching was what led me to an understanding of compassion and kindness, love, and forgiveness, ultimately forgiveness. That was a powerful step that I took in my life that day. So I was reading something recently that reminded me of that. It was a Japanese poet by the name of Mizuta Masahide who put it this way: "The barn burnt down. Now I can see the moon." Because I was so convinced that I thought this was going to be my best friend for life and my business partner for life. And when that burned down, literally to the ground, all of a sudden I could see the moon. I could see something greater there for me. But it took burning down for that to happen. So I thought the barn was so important, this friendship and this business relationship. But what I didn't realize, it was actually hiding the moon, something that was so far greater for me. I thought I just had to get through that, but what I really had to do was recognize and embody this story within me that said, I am greater than that experience that happened to me. I'm greater than what anyone says about me or does to me. I am this divine expression that I know I can move forward with ease and with grace no matter what is going on around me, even if the barn is burning down. So when we see in our life lack, discord, relationships that have gone south, whatever, you fill in the blank there. When we see that, it's our opportunity to understand that there is something more beyond what we can see with our physical eyes. This is our chance to use our spiritual eyes. And this is where we get to really practice what we teach. We're not a proselytizing religion. We live these teachings. And so I encourage you, in today's world, where people seem to be latching on to anything that is negative or unkind, even cruel. I mean, the things I see on Facebook sometimes, I go, really? Really? Do we really want to have a discord at that level? This is our chance to step up and be that light that we know that we are. See with our spiritual eyes. Because something wonderful happens when we see beyond appearances. All of a sudden, the moon is there. It was there all along, right? We just couldn't see it. But this letting go of something in our life is the opportunity for us to do that. And as a former general manager of the universe, where I knew not only what's best for me, but what's best for everyone in the world, anyone else with me on that? It was my chance to really fully surrender that maybe, just maybe, I don't have all the answers. That maybe, just maybe, there's something within me that does. And when I don't have the answer, I can turn to that place, that divine essence within me, and say, I may not know the answer to this, but something within me does. That's a powerful statement. And that's what I had to learn, because I thought before I had to have all the answers. My conscious mind had to have all the answers. I had to know the next step in my life and the next step in my career, and et cetera, et cetera. And this was where it just went, nope, not going to happen. Not going to happen. Ernest Holmes has a wonderful phrase in Science of Mind. He says, hell cools off when we think of heaven. And I found myself thinking of hell quite a bit during this period of my life. And hell was the opportunity for me to go, wait a minute. This isn't really what I should be spending my energy on. This isn't where I should be focusing my attention. What I really should be thinking of is, where's the moon? Where's the moon in all this? I can ask that question. Because even if I can't see it now, I know with every fiber of my being now that everything happens for my highest good. And that my soul only calls forth that which is there for my healing and for my highest good. And so my friend was actually an instrument for good. She might have meant it for otherwise, but she was an instrument for my good. And I can thank her now. Thank you. Because I grew as a spiritual being because of her. She was a blessing in my life. And trust me, that did not come overnight. I can say that now. Yet the world continually looks to the negative, doesn't it? There's actually a company called Despair Inc. You can go to despair.com, DESPAIR. They have T-shirts and they have posters. Have you seen the posters in corporate places that, success posters that have nice little sayings on them? Well, they have the opposite of that. I'll show you a couple of them. This one's called Limitations, with a picture of a penguin on it. It says, until you spread your wings, you'll have no idea how far you can walk. It took you a second to figure that one out, right? And then I love this one, wishes. When you wish upon a falling star, your dreams can come true, unless it's really a meteorite hurtling to the earth, which will destroy all life. Then you're pretty much toast no matter what, unless it's death by meteor. And they sell a lot of these. So there's a lot of people buying into negativity, would you agree? And yet, if we really are religious scientists, if we really are the light bearers of this world, as I hope we all believe that we are, it is incumbent upon us to look beyond this, even if it's funny, but to go to that place that says, I am going to be a light no matter what. Even if the barn around me is burning down, I know that the fire licking at my feet is simply burning away that which I no longer need, that which no longer serves me. Can I get an amen to that? Amen. Because as we stand in that fire, and it takes tremendous courage, doesn't it, to do that. As we stand in that fire, we are being purified and qualified to move forward to our next greater good. When I first got into New Thought, I thought, when I attain enlightenment, my life will be so easy. But that's not what we're here for, is it? We'll still have challenges in our life. We'll still have opportunities to grow. And here's how you can know if you're growing. We always will have these challenges, but are your challenges today better than the ones that you dealt with 5 years ago? Yeah. If they're the same, you might want to do some soul searching at that, because this is how we know that we're growing. We just get a better set of challenges. Or in my case, what took me 2 years to figure out about my friend betraying me and to get to a great place about it, then became 2 months, then 2 weeks, and now 2 minutes. There are still moments when I go, man, this isn't right. But that's my opportunity to come back to this too is for my highest good. If we're all singing, if God is everywhere, everything is God, do we really believe that? Even the barn burning down. And I know many of you are probably in the midst of a barn burning. You might be in the midst of that right now. And I'm here to tell you that this is your moment to say yes to a greater good, to say yes to surrendering to that which is healing and helping you right now. These are the times when we are called forth to greater things in our life. Betrayal may be a common theme in your life, like it has been in mine, and that simply has been my opportunity to heal. It has been my opportunity for me to know, without a shadow of a doubt, that no one and no thing can come between me and my good. This is a greater calling that we have taken on. And would you agree, just like Morpheus says, once you take the red pill or the blue pill, you can't go back? You can't go back once you have this consciousness, right? You are here and you have committed to this. And that's what the beautiful thing about this rose blessing ceremony we're doing today is a rededication of ourselves to the commitment of the spiritual principle that I am here to be a blessing in this world. I am here to grow. I am here to flourish as God's gift to this world, because that's the truth of who you are. So this time of year, we often look at the Easter story. I know Reverend Michelle will be going into that much further next week. But I want to focus on the story of Judas today. And the traditional story of Judas is that Judas was one of the 12 disciples, of course. And he was here to provide something, a greater understanding of ourselves. Because what if, in the bigger picture, our souls only bring forth that which helps our spiritual growth? What if, at some level, even before I incarnated in this world, in this life, My business partner and I met, and we said to each other, okay, I was the jerk last time. You get to be the jerk this time. And you're going to betray me, and that's going to help me understand who I am as a person. Would you do that for me, please? And she said, yes, I will do that for you because I love you. And that was our opportunity to come to an agreement of sorts. I know that might be a stretch of an idea. It was for me at one time, but I fully believe that now. That if I really believe that my soul is always bringing forth good, what if she was an unconscious part of that? Because my business partner and I were simply pieces of the puzzle. Whoops, where are we? Where am I missing here? Well, what if we were pieces of the puzzle? We'll find that somewhere down the road. To create something more, because we fit together. You know how pieces come together and fit? That's what we were. And just like the caterpillar becomes a chrysalis and then a butterfly, there's a transformation that is happening. But we have to go from the current state that we are in, of our consciousness, to the future state. There's got to be a transformation, right? And you all said, yes, I would like a transformation, please. Well, most of you did. Be careful what you ask for, because you have just claimed that there is something happening in the unseen for you and your good. That process of transformation means that we must move from one state of consciousness to another. And that's where we get into trouble, isn't it? That's where I got into trouble, because I found out, oh my God, I have to change. You mean I got to change? Oh my God. And that's where we all start going, but I don't want to have to do that. And this is simply our soul calling us to greater expressions as us. So I am grateful that my business partner, friend, beloved, I can call her now, is someone who said yes to my experiencing growth in my life. Does that make sense? And every person who has been on my path ever since, I can also say thank you. Thank you. Even though on the conscious level it looked like it was meant for harm, it really was meant for my good. And I am the woman I am today standing in front of you because of the wonderful experiences I had and the opportunities I had to grow. To be in that chrysalis. Do you think the caterpillar enjoys turning into a butterfly? I'm sure there's probably some death along the way there for him too. But he gets to that point where he can stretch his wings and become a new expression of God. And that's all that was happening to me. I just didn't know it at the time. So I have spiritual eyes now to see this. So getting back to Judas. See, the traditional story is that he's one of the most reviled men in history. And in the 70s, they found the lost gospel of Judas. And when I say found, they found it in a cave, hidden away, a codex, which is another word for ancient book. And so they've been studying it all this time, and finally in 2006, they had authenticated it, said yes, this book was actually written in 180 AD. And this was written from the aspect of Judas, of Iscariot, one of the 12 disciples. Because the traditional story we read in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John say that Judas is the person who, among the disciples, he traded Jesus' life for 30 pieces of silver, and he told the Roman soldiers that he would kiss Jesus to identify who he was, and they could arrest him. And so that's why Judas, in traditional Christianity, is seen as someone who was a traitor. But this lost gospel of Judas gives it a fresh, different perspective. This says that it first starts by announcing that it is a secret account of the revelation that Jesus spoke in conversation with Judas Iscariot during a week, 3 days before he celebrated Passover. It goes on to describe Judas as Jesus' closest friend, someone who understands Christ's true message and is singled out for special status among Jesus' disciples. So really, Judas was his friend, his best friend, who understood spiritual philosophies and teachings. So in the key passage, Jesus tells Judas, "You will exceed all of them, for you will sacrifice the man that clothes me." Kasser, who is the translation project leader, offers an interpretation. Jesus says it is necessary for someone to free him finally from his human body, and he prefers that his liberation be done by a friend rather than an enemy. So he asked Judas, who is his friend, to sell him out, to betray him. It's treason to the general public, but between Jesus and Judas, it's not treachery. It's the highest act of love. That's a whole different spin, isn't it? That Jesus actually asked it because he was preparing his consciousness for leaving this plane into another expression. So he knew that, and he asked Judas, "Would you betray me?" That is a very different way of looking at it, which has led me to understand at a greater level of my own understanding that perhaps I have misdiagnosed what was really happening as well. That maybe those people in my life that betrayed me were actually my greatest friends and loved me way more than I ever knew. This is a lot to chew on, isn't it? You have that within you that says there is something more happening here. And so the puzzle pieces come together, and the caterpillar becomes the monarch butterfly. And we stretch our wings and fly, because before we were just crawling. I crawled into that religious science church now. I'm not crawling anymore, and either are you. You have the capability to stretch your wings and fly just as I have done. It takes work, it takes courage, it takes vulnerability, but you've got all of that. And you have a loving family of the spiritual community surrounding you, telling you, you got this, because we've got your back. There's nothing more important than that. So what if Jesus was really preparing his consciousness for a greater good as well, in the form of leaving a mark on the world as a great way shower? See, Ernest Holmes talks about Jesus a lot. A third to a quarter of our textbook is about the teachings of Jesus. But he's not the great exception, he's the great example. He's the way out for us. And the Bible is the story of man. There's not the literal story, it's the metaphysical story of how we too can rise above that which we are going through at this moment. So the barn's burnt down. But now I can see the moon. Now I can see that this body, this meat suit that I walk around in, is not the real me. It's simply the housing that I've chosen for this incarnation of a divine, energetic being that I am. And that being is here to thrive, not crawl. And when I am in the midst of a barn burning down, as many of us might be at this moment, I can know with certainty that I have the strength to move through this, and that what is being burned off is something that I no longer need. And the moon is right there, beckoning, calling. The Native Americans have full moon ceremonies all the time that celebrate that we have now gone through a cycle. If we look at life and at nature, everything's a cycle, isn't it? The 23rd Psalm, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, it doesn't say I pitched a tent and camped there. We walk through it. And yet sometimes I feel we get stuck in that burning down portion of our lives. You are meant to walk through it and come out so clean and pure on the other side that you are a being of such brilliance that it's hard to even look at you. You're so brilliant. That's who you are. And that's what I see before me right now. What if everything that we've labeled bad happening to us in our life, we can toss away that label and know without a shadow of a doubt that it really was for our good? What if crisis was really the opening for transformation for us? The crucifixion always comes before the ascension. And if you're having a crucifixion in your life right now, and I'm not denying that there's pain, there's loss. It could be the loss of a relationship or a job or a way of life. It could be a betrayal. But that crucifixion is simply the catalyst. Thank you. The catalyst to move us into the ascension, where we stand with our arms spread open saying, I am here. Hear me roar. I am that being of light that I know that I am. It's not the end, as Darius told us. It's just the beginning. That's what we're here to celebrate. The barn's burnt down. Now I can see the moon. Let's take that into prayer. Father, Mother God, I speak my word right now for every person in this room, every person watching on live streaming, every person watching or listening to the archive. That deep down within each person here, there is a quickening happening right now. There's a shift, there's a transformative happening. There is something moving in the unseen for their greater good. I speak my word for every person who's in the midst of their own barn burning down. I speak my word for everyone who's ever been betrayed, experienced hurt, experienced loss. I speak my word for everyone who's ever thought that they were less than what they truly are. I speak my word for anyone who thinks they're not worthy of full love and compassion and kindness. I speak my word for anyone who feels stuck in life and that they're never going to get ahead. I speak my word for anyone who has given up hope that they'll ever climb out of debt or financial crisis. I speak my word for everyone here and know with every breath I take that there is something more for every single one. There is something more that the barn could burn away an entire lifetime. But there's still the moon standing right there, brightly glowing, showing us the path, the way to move forward in life. I speak my word for anyone who feels that life is hard and a struggle. Because I know for you that shift is now happening, that life can be transformative and fun and free and powerful and full of love, full of friendship, full of prosperity. Because the energetic being in you knows that. So the divine here is speaking to every individual now, through me, that all is unfolding perfectly, and I too can rise above the ashes into something greater than I could ever even imagined. I too can rise to a place that says, yes, I let go of the no and the doubt and the fear and let myself expand fully. Just as the butterfly stretches its wings and flies, I too am stretching my wings and flying to a new place of discovery and exploration. Oh, there's a healing going on. I feel it, I know it, and I am taking a firm stand for anyone in here that even if you can't believe that shift is happening, I will believe for you. You have what it takes to live a magnificent life. And I declare that for you right now. And so I just am so grateful for the opportunity to direct the law that always, always answers in the affirmative. I'm grateful for the opportunity to take a stand for love and forgiveness rather than hatred and resentment. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be the Sally that I am, just another expression of God in this beautiful orchestra of life. I am so grateful. I let it be so. And together we say, and so it is.